My name is Broom, I'm a product and interior designer. This year we're taking our Broom delivery van to Milan, where we'll be creating an Italian palazzo in the back of the van with our new lighting collection. And we'll drive it from London to Milan, and then we'll pitch up in all the design districts. Last year when I was at Milan, I went to lots of exhibitions that were all about the palazzo, and everybody was talking about that, and I thought, okay, why don't I create my own, but I'll create a mini palazzo inside the vehicle. It's a very surreal kind of idea. It's almost like a kind of art installation. We have an illuminated floor, all the walls are painted out in grey, and then we've got our new lighting product called Optical. It's inspired by op art. And when you look at the product from all angles, the linear stripes change. People will come past, take photos and leave. It's kind of almost a blink or you'll miss it moment, which I kind of like the idea of. We're also going to be taking our Broom delivery van to Barbasso, where we're going to be hosting a party with Decor. Barbasso is such an institution that I think it would be rude not to.
And this is a different kind of presentation because it's going to be a bit of a conversation between us also, which I've never done before. And I want to thank everyone at Inform for their amazing support and ability to turn this retail space into something really special for presentations. And I think the Michaels and Todd and Carissa and just everybody do such an incredible job. So. And this is Lee.
Hello.
I don't know how far are we supposed to be from these things?
Hello? Yeah, you can hear that. Better?
Okay.
You just shout if you can't hear.
So, do I start with a question?
I guess so. Or we could sing.
Oh, Charles suggested dancing earlier. Synchronized. We didn't have time to practice, so sorry.
Yeah.
We will not inflict that upon you. So I'll start with the question and we can go from there. What qualities did you learn when you were young that you use today?
A lot. I think a lot of what I do now really like most people, stems from, when they were a child and their upbringing. My upbringing was fairly unusual in that I was a child actor. I was enrolled into theatre school at the age of 7, and I think my parents noticed that I was a fairly flamboyant individual, and they wanted to channel that into something, and they sent me to theatre school, and I was in fact a working actor during 10 years from the age of 7 till I was 17. I was a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company. I was in many sort of TV shows and theatrical productions, and this was a career, this wasn't a hobby. And it was a career that I was going to go into as an adult as well. So it was interesting that I changed and moved into design, but I think the kind of qualities that have attributed to sort of who I am today in that period, well, I think first of all is the sort of if you own your own business, is you have to have a certain sense of tenacity, and certainly when you're going to many auditions, as a child, and you're having so many knockbacks, you're too short, you're too this, you're not good enough, or you're not right, or you don't look right, you kind of build up a thick skin. It gave me a lot of confidence, I think, as a young age, and I guess the ability to go out there and sell oneself. And certainly in this industry, it's one thing being a good designer, but it's quite another putting yourself out there, putting your work out on the line and having people kind of judge what you do. That's why we see many sort of starving artists who are just paralyzed by that notion of just not being able to put their work out there. And I definitely think it gave me the confidence to be able to do that. And then I guess the overall theatricality of my upbringing, seeing things as a performance, definitely put itself into the shows that I present, for sure. And, you know, kind of wanting to create an emotional spectacle for people and not just seeing the product. Super important that the product's good, but, you know, to create some sort of emotion around what you're looking at, you know, some sort of sensory experience has been, you know, really stems from that, I think.
So the truck in Milan, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, that was based actually around me wanting to do something very small, because we'd done a very big show the year before called The Department Store, where we recreated a whole Lee Broom department store, and it was a huge collection. And I wanted to do something, you know, much more kind of boutique, but also really wanted to do something that everybody could see, because, you know, you've been to Milan, you know how intense it is, there's so many things to see, you can't see everything. I was like, okay, how do I bring the show to the people? And I was literally just looking at our delivery van, and I was like, oh, why don't I put the show in that, you know? And then we set up this Italian palazzo in the back of the vehicle, this faux palazzo, all in grey, and we put my new lighting collection in, and we actually drove it from London to Milan with that installation inside. So you can imagine what it was like at customs when they opened the back. They were a bit perplexed. Yeah, it was just one of those ideas that I kind of thought that somebody would have done already, but nobody had, you know. So, you know, we've now seen quite a few sort of travelling shows in Milan as a result of that, which is nice.
Certainly memorable. Certainly memorable.
Well, we gate crashed a lot of parties as well. You know, we kind of like, some of it was very planned. We had all of our sort of parking spaces and, you know, all through the municipality of the city organised. And then other times we were like, why don't we just rock up outside Wallpaper Magazine's party with the van? You know, so it was like guerrilla show, if you like. It was good. Hi, my name's Lee Broom, and I'm in Singapore at Space Furniture presenting Park Life. When I'm designing furniture and lighting, I'm not necessarily thinking about, you know, okay, it's going to go in this person's home or it's going to be in this hotel. I'm actually designing from a much more emotional place in a way. And I think because of my background in theatre, I was a child actor growing up, and because of my background in fashion, I worked for Vivienne Westwood before I became a product designer. All of those different disciplines kind of instill this emotional way of designing and seeing everything that I do in the end presentation as a sort of performance. And I like the idea that when people come and see my shows, that they don't just have a visual reaction or a tactile reaction, they have some kind of emotional response. You know, we've all seen how things look in somebody's home. It makes people's imaginations sort of run wild, I think. I think the key milestone probably for us was releasing the crystal bulb, which is our LED cut crystal light bulb. Probably one of the most affordable Lee Broom products that you can buy, but it's probably the most expensive light bulb you're ever going to buy. So it's actually like a modernist version of an 18th century pleasure garden or maze. So similar to here, which is what we have in Sydney, Australia, you have the white gravel, which is synonymous with gardens and stately homes in England and in France, and you have all the neoclassical statues around. I wanted to present some of my most well-known furniture and lighting pieces, and this piece here was an item that I released in 2015, and it's called Fulcrum Light. And it's called Fulcrum because it's all about balance. It's a really simple contemporary design of a very elegant silhouette of a cylinder, and then it has a sphere in between the two cylinders that are balancing. So this piece here is called Eclipse Light, and one is LED disc, which is solid acrylic. It has LED around the edge that penetrates through the light, and then we have a mirrored disc which separates the two, and you get the idea that the disc is almost going through the product.
Looking at the question going, okay, non sequitur question. But to get a bit of texture of who you are behind all the other stuff. What is your idea of perfect happiness? And Charles, it is you, but we're going to ask for more.
Well, that's a difficult question. Because I'm a very happy person generally. And I'm happy with my partner, and I'm happy with my work. And I guess very boringly, I'm kind of happy when we're just together, sort of doing nothing to a certain degree. I think it's those kind of smaller, supposedly less interesting things in life that become the most interesting when you look back. And I've certainly had amazing things happen in my career, which I love. But I think the kind of more simpler things I enjoy the most.
They're impossible to script.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you just are.
Yeah, and they just happen. And I think all of these things are more noticeable retrospectively when you kind of look back and you say, wow, God, that was a really kind of happy moment. It's very difficult, I think, to be kind of super fulfilled right in the moment, right now. That doesn't kind of exist. If you are trying to do that, then it becomes very forced and it becomes very pressured, So yeah, I think those moments where you kind of look back and you were sort of, not doing much, but yeah, doing everything, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. You live in London?
Yes, yeah. But I travel a lot. And, we have our store in New York, so we're back and forth to New York a lot. And obviously we've been traveling a lot over the past few weeks, across Canada and across America, and doing these talks and things. So I like that. When I first started my business, I traveled less and felt very British, and being British brand was very much part of what we were doing. And now I feel very global, which I think is good,
It's 11 years.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Wow.
Yeah. And definitely the last 5 years have been kind of big trajectory, kind of upwards and incredibly busy. But it's what we wanted. It's what we wanted to happen, and I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do. To create my own designs and manufacture my own pieces and create my own vision and have my own brand. And a lot of people are not able to do that, and it is tough and it is challenging, but the ups are really worth it,
How do you have time to design? Like, how do you design? Do you design all the time? Are you always drawing and thinking?
I'm always thinking. I mean, I'm not necessarily always sketching every day. I'm sketching, a couple of days a week, but I'm always thinking. I have a pretty photographic memory for anything visual. For kind of anything that's sort of numbers and words and things like that, I can't really take that in as well. But for visual things, I can remember a lot. So I can see something from like a few years ago and then pair it with something that I've just seen, like a side of a building or a kind of bit of architecture or a tapestry or whatever, and then put the two things together. So I'm very visual, and when I go to bed and I go to sleep, that's the time when I'm kind of thinking. I go to sleep always sort of designing something. And I have a sketchbook by the bed as well.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, you had a sketchbook.
Well, most of the time you because I dream about things as well. And, the crystal bulb that we designed, which you have on the desk of the reception, I actually dreamt that product 8 weeks before we launched it in Milan. And I had a different product to release in Milan. And then when I told my partner about it, he was like, you've got to do it for Milan, you've got to do it for Milan. And so we kind of produced it, we found a manufacturer, we produced 30 of them in 8 weeks. And that was from a dream, you know. And actually, normally when I pick up the sketchbook, I'm like the next morning, what the bloody hell is this? You know, it's usually some sort of mess. But yeah, you know, I think you tend to be the most creative in two do before when you're very, very relaxed or when you're super busy. Those are the two things. It's like, you know, when you want to get something done, give it to somebody who's busy.
Yeah.
It's that kind of mentality,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So is that why your life's so crazy, traveling, store in New York, London, traveling the world? So you're either super relaxed, going to Palm Springs in 42-degree weather, or giving talks and traveling.
Yeah, actually, it's his pretty much like that. It's kind of two polar opposites. I actually do find it difficult to relax sometimes. It is quite difficult to unwind when your brain's been so switched on and stuff like that. And when you own your business, you don't completely switch on. And I live with my partner. He's my partner and my business partner. So there is no rest. Yeah. And that sounds terrible, doesn't it? No, there is, but you know, the thing is that we both do very different things in the business. He does the business, I do the creative. So actually, when we're at work in London, I'm at the top of the building and he's in a completely different area. So when we go home in the evening, we've actually got quite a lot to talk about. It's kind of, how was your day, darling? Well, I did this, and because we haven't really seen each other. So yeah, but it's great when you're actually, a lot of people shudder when they think about the idea of working with their partner, but I think it's good. We do very different things, and it sounds corny, but we are designing our lives essentially together. Yeah. So that's why we can go to Palm Springs in the middle of our very busy schedule. Yeah,
there are challenges. I don't know, Niels and I, well, we carpool every day together, or pretty well every day together. We are partners in the businesses, and same thing. I mean, I guess it's been 24 years now, about. So we do work 5 minutes apart.
Yeah.
Almost like 5 stories in a building. It's pretty,
Yeah, but I think you kind of, and you know, you will know this, it's sort of, you build up a routine and a kind of rapport and a way of working, and you know how to switch off from work at some point, but you know, your work is your life, and this is your creation, you know, and why would you want to kind of forget that, you know?
Yeah, no, it is really a business of passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and trust.
Yes, yeah, for sure. No,
trust
absolutely,
is huge.
Yeah.
So who are your heroes in real life?
Well, I would say my mother. She, you know, invested a lot into my upbringing in the theatre. You know, it was very much kind of, it felt like a career for her as well. She was, you know, she wasn't a pushy stage mother, but she didn't hold back. She was kind of, you know, definitely, yeah, you know, she encouraged it, and she loved that whole world, the theatre, and she just encouraged me to be who I wanted to be. And then when I ended up moving into design, she was very supportive, because that was kind of a big shock for her. You know, she'd invested a lot about me becoming an adult actor, but I was very passionate about design. My dad was an artist, and he taught me how to draw, and I got in because I entered a fashion design competition, which was judged by Vivienne Westwood, which was the Young Designer of the Year award in the UK, and I won, and I got to meet Vivienne. Well, I didn't want to do a traditional retrospective. I wanted to do something with a little bit of newness in it. So rather than presenting pieces that, you know, a lot of people have already seen, I wanted to present them in a unique and a different way, in a way that people hadn't seen before. So I had an idea of kind of almost bleaching everything out in the same colour, so it almost could be looking like it's all from one recent collection rather than collections over the past 10 years. And then the idea for the carousel came about for 2 reasons really. When I was a child, I was obsessed with carousels and really fascinated by them. And when I found this location in Central Station, I just thought it would just be perfect in this dilapidated vault to have this shining modernist beacon of a carousel which rotates to really show the kind of journey I've been on as a designer over the past 10 years. Well, I mean, you don't think about 10 years when you start, you're just focused on what you're doing at that moment. And so it was interesting for me to look back, because as a designer, and I'm sure a lot of designers say this, they don't look back at their work, they're always focused on what's happening next. So in a way I was kind of forced to. And something that I did notice was that how I've developed as a designer over the past 10 years, and my aesthetic has changed, but I think, you know, the core of my design philosophy is still there, the kind of working with things that we've seen before but presenting them in different ways. And I think the aesthetics have just changed, and, you know, from decorative to more conceptual to contemporary. So, and sometimes that's unconscious and sometimes it's very much on purpose, you know. Every collection we like to work with new materials, new finishes, new silhouettes, or design something that I've not designed before. I decided to do a statuesque marble grandfather clock, and there was a few reasons for this. One is I've always been intrigued by grandfather clocks because my grandparents used to have one. So when I was younger, I was fascinated by the kind of mechanics of it, and I remember it being so intimidating as a small child and kind of scary looking. So that was always in my head, and then I thought about wanting to, there's like a number of products that I've always wanted to design that you wouldn't necessarily release regularly as you would do a light fitting, and a grandfather clock was on that list amongst a few others. And I also had coffee in New York with your editor Spencer, and he said, you should definitely do a grandfather clock one time, I think you'd be really good at that. And all of those things combined with our 10-year anniversary, I thought, okay, it would be a good time to do it. And then it's 10 years as well, it's like a commemorative thing, you know,